What if you stayed in a bathtub for a week? It's a question that might seem silly at first.
But let's dive into the details and see what really happens.
7 days, non-stop. It might sound like the ultimate spa getaway at first, but is it really that simple?
What if you stayed in a bathtub for an entire week?
Would it be a dream come true or more like a soggy, pruny nightmare?
This is what-if explanations, and today we're diving right into that very question.
The first day in the bathtub, you might feel relaxed at first.
But soon, things start to change. Your skin begins to prune.
The first hour is crucial,
Your body adjusts to the water.
but prolonged exposure has its effects.
Your muscles start to relax too much.
The water isn't as comfortable anymore.
You start to feel the strain, and the suspense builds.
This is where things get interesting. The effects of staying in the bathtub for a week.
Are more dramatic than you might think.
After a few hours, your fingers and toes are shriveled up like raisins. Ever wonder why that happens?
Your skin is made up of several layers, and when you stay submerged in water for a long time, the outermost layer, the stratum corneum, absorbs water and expands.
That wrinkling effect is actually your body's way of improving your grip in wet conditions, like a natural adaptation.
Cool, right? But now imagine that same effect over a much longer period. Not so cool anymore.
The skin starts to get really fragile, and those once fun wrinkles start to feel less like a novelty and more like a nuisance.
By day 2, you're noticing some changes. Your skin is losing its natural oils because they've been washed away.
Without those oils, your skin gets dry and the protective barrier starts breaking down. What does that mean for you?
It means your skin is getting more vulnerable, itchy, irritated, even cracked.
The warm water, once comforting, is now starting to work against you.
Your body's crying out for some lotion or moisturizer, anything to put back what's being lost.
But you're still in the tub and there's no relief in sight.
And let's not forget about hygiene.
One thing people don't consider about staying in a bathtub is that, well, it's not exactly sanitary.
Sitting in the same water for days means all the dirt, sweat, and natural oils that leave your skin just accumulate in the tub.
By day 3, you're basically marinating in your own body's leftovers.
Not exactly a spa experience, right? The water gets murky, and it's far from relaxing.
It's a breeding ground for bacteria, and with your skin barrier already weakened, you're much more susceptible to infections.
Your muscles, too, are starting to feel the effects.
Think about it. Staying in a tub for an entire week means minimal movement.
You're sitting or maybe lying down in the same position for hours and hours.
By day 3 or 4, you'll likely start experiencing muscle stiffness and aches.
Your legs are cramping, your back feels sore, and let's be honest, there's only so much stretching you can do in a bathtub.
Your joints start feeling stiff because they're not being used, and circulation takes a hit too.
Without regular movement, blood flow becomes sluggish, making you feel even more tired.
Let's talk about what happens to your mental state around this point.
When you think about being in a bathtub, you probably picture yourself relaxing, maybe catching up on some good music or a book.
But by day 4 or 5, the novelty is worn off and the isolation starts to get to you.
The lack of stimulation makes you restless, even anxious.
There's no room to stretch out, no way to properly exercise, and nothing to really do except sit in the increasingly uncomfortable water.
It's monotonous, and boredom sets in like a heavy fog.
And speaking of discomfort, let's not forget about temperature regulation.
That warm water you loved so much on day 1, it doesn't stay warm forever.
You'd have to keep adding hot water constantly, which means a lot of energy and time spent just trying to stay comfortable.
And if the water gets too cold, well, that's a whole other problem.
Your body loses heat 25 times faster in water than in air, so if the bath gets too chilly, you're at risk of hypothermia, even in a relatively warm room.
You're constantly battling the temperature, and it's exhausting.
Now, there's another issue that most people don't think about, your body's basic needs.
We're talking about eating, drinking, and yes, using the bathroom.
You're going to need food, but eating in a bathtub isn't exactly easy or comfortable.
And as for bathroom breaks, well, let's just say things get complicated very quickly.
Staying in a bathtub means either getting out, which defeats the purpose, or, let's be honest, making some pretty gross compromises.
It's awkward, it's uncomfortable, and it's just not practical. By day 6, your body is screaming for normalcy.
Your skin is incredibly pruny and fragile, starting to show signs of breakdown.
You've got rashes forming in places you didn't even know could get rashes, and the constant exposure to water has made your skin an easy target for fungal infections.
Athlete's foot, ringworm, you name it. These opportunistic fungi love a wet environment, and your bathtub is basically paradise for them right now.
Your circulation is also becoming a real concern.
Blood pools in the lower parts of your body because you're sitting so much, leading to swelling and discomfort.
You might even be at risk for something called deep vein thrombosis, DVT, which is a blood clot that forms in a vein deep in your body, usually in the legs.
It's something that happens when people are immobile for too long, like on a long flight, and trust me, a week in a bathtub is way longer than any flight.
And let's not ignore what's happening inside your body.
Being in warm water for too long affects your core temperature and can even throw off your electrolyte balance.
Sweating in that constant warmth without properly replacing fluids and nutrients can lead to dehydration and imbalance. Your kidneys, which are working hard to filter out waste, have to adapt to these strange conditions.
You're not moving enough, you're not hydrating properly, and your electrolyte levels are likely all over the place.
It's a recipe for feeling incredibly unwell.
By the time day 7 rolls around, you're not just uncomfortable, you're downright miserable.
Your skin is raw, your muscles are sore, you're mentally drained, and you feel weak.
The idea of staying in a bathtub for an entire week might have started out as a fun thought experiment, but at this point, it's anything but fun.
Every part of your body and mind is telling you that this was a bad idea.
The water, once inviting, now feels oppressive, and all you can think about is getting out and never looking at a bathtub the same way again.
So what if you stayed in a bathtub for an entire week?
It starts as a luxurious soak and ends as a week-long test of endurance, one that leaves you physically battered and mentally drained.
Our bodies are built to move, to interact with our environment, and to adapt.
A bathtub might be a great place to unwind after a long day, but trust me, it's not where you want to spend an entire week.
The water that felt like a comforting embrace eventually becomes a watery prison, leaving you longing for dry land, solid ground, and just a simple, fresh breath of air.
If you found this journey as eye-opening as I did and you're ready for more curious, wild scenarios, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.
This has been What If Explanations, and we're just getting started exploring all the bizarre possibilities out there.
Thanks for watching, and remember, stay curious, stay comfortable, and stay out of the tub for too long.